The New York Giants are 2-1 since Jackson Dart has taken over as the starting quarterback, and man, there is some energy and juice to this franchise. So in today's video, I want to talk about the New York Giants and why they have fixed their biggest problem. Subscribe and like the video if you do go on to enjoy. Let's hop into it. So this video is not going to be a week-by-week breakdown of what has happened so far this year. I just want to talk about what the future of this Giants team looks like. The Giants are 2-1 with Jackson Dart. Prior to Dart starting, they were 0-3. Russell Wilson was getting booed off the field. Brian Dable was looking like he was going to get fired any day now. Dart comes in, they beat the Chargers, a team that was 3-0 heading into that game. They lose to the Saints, a game in which they got up big early and then they had some turnover issues. Shit happened. It's okay. We put it in the past. And then yesterday on Thursday Night Football, they had one of the biggest upsets of the year by kind of demolishing the Philadelphia Eagles 34-17. Now, this is a very important thing we have to do in this video. We cannot overreact. We can overreact a little bit, but we can't go too far and too crazy like some people might be doing right now. I don't want to go too far and say Jackson Dart's the next Eli Manning who's going to bring the Giants multiple Super Bowls. I'm not going to do any of that yet. I'm just simply put going to look at the proof and what is actually happening on the field. Jackson Dart and Skat basically single-handedly have brought in so much new confidence and swagger and juice to a franchise that frankly hasn't had that since like prime Odell Beckham. Once Odell was kind of not in his prime, or when he left to go to Cleveland, the team was kind of lifeless. I know Daniel Jones is having a great year right now with the Indianapolis Colts, but prior to him being a Colt, when he was on the Giants, I mean, it was just zero energy when he was on the field. It even felt like his first year, when there was some hope and optimism, it felt like there wasn't a ton of hope for what he could end up becoming. I'm not saying that Giants fans thought he was going to be a bust or anything. It just felt like he wasn't really ever truly the guy. And even when they brought in Brian Dable, who has sort of a fiery energy to him, it just always felt like this team was missing something. There was hope here and there was a couple of good games or some good moments, of course, occasionally. But generally speaking, this team just felt like it was missing something. The team wasn't where they probably should have been. There was a lack of energy. The fans were angry. And rightfully so, they were pissed off at what the team was doing on the field. And in 3 games, you put in Jackson Dart, you give Skat an increased role, and it just feels like all of a sudden there is this swagger, this energy, this juice to a team and a fan base that hasn't had that in almost a decade now. And it's only been 3 games. I mean, I know there's just a lot of energy right now because it is so new, and eventually it will kind of wear off, and then winning will take over and be the most important thing. But in this brief moment of time, it is kind of refreshing. I'm a Cowboys fan. I do not care about the New York Giants. I'm a Cowboys fan first and will always be a Cowboys fan. But even I have to admit, I kind of like this new energy from the Giants. They're physical. They got swag, they can play offense, and their defense is playing pretty good football too. I want to focus in on one half of this young little quarterback running back duo that's playing really well. Let's start off with Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's playing well. Now, I don't want to make it out to be like he's having a Jaden Daniels or CJ Stroud type of rookie season, but I do think he's well on his way to having a very successful year. He's 2-1, has beaten probably the 2 toughest opponents of the 3. He lost to the easiest one, but I don't think it was all on Jackson Dart. You had some turnover issues and fumbles and some picks when he was forcing things. But I got to give a lot of credit to Brian Dable. I think Brian Dable is doing a masterful job of giving Jackson Dart rhythm and eventually some confidence to really get him going in the right direction week after week after week. The scheme they're running is very uncomplex, and I don't want this to discredit what he's doing. I don't mean it by that. I'm just simply stating the facts. It's a lot of quick and easy throws, some RPOs, a lot of screens, some quarterback designed runs, and a lot of the shots he's taken down the field are designed shots, like double moves, like seam breakers, etc., etc. But occasionally, when Dart has to make a play and show why he was drafted in the first round, he has done that. So while the schematics of the game plan have been brilliant on Dable's part, and it has definitely helped Jackson Dart catch a rhythm and play good football, when the play breaks down, when the offensive lineman gets beat and he has to make a move in the pocket, he is doing so at a very high level. And it isn't like he's doing what a typical rookie would do, which is instantly tuck the ball and go try and make a play with his legs. Occasionally he will do that, but sometimes he's extending plays and keeping his eyes downfield, looking for an extra target. I can think of a handful of throws just in the Eagles game alone where the offensive line breaks down a little bit or the pocket becomes a little bit hard to maneuver in. He breaks out of it and he doesn't just instantly run. Sometimes he will, he's a rookie, but most times he's looking downfield, seeing if there's things open, And when there is, he's hitting them. That's very exciting for me because that is in part of what makes Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes so good. It's their playmaking ability when the game plan or the schematics of the play break down. When the schematics don't 100% work and all of a sudden you got to go out there and make a play, Jackson Dart has shown the ability to do so. Now, it's not fully consistent yet, and there's things he has to work on in his game, such as consistently keeping the eyes down the field and not just tucking it the second the pocket collapses. He's done that occasionally, but as he gets more reps, he'll just get better and better at it. Now, some accuracy issues have popped up. There have been a few times where he's had a guy open downfield and he either overshoots it or he undersells it. That's something that I think he'll figure out the more he gets into the game. Just right now, everything's coming so fast at him that when he sees a shot open downfield, I'm sure his heart just starts pumping and he just makes a bit of a missed throw. But sometimes he hits these guys right on the money, so got to give him his flowers. But I think he's doing a very good job. He's playing on time, in rhythm. He's going through his reads. He's not overcomplicating the game, which is, in my opinion, pretty impressive. So often you get these young quarterbacks that go out there and they have all the talent in the world. In fact, there have been quarterbacks who are, in my opinion, way more talented than Jackson Dart as a quarterback, but they overcomplicate it. They overthink things. They get in their own head. They don't have the confidence. You look at, and I hate to call this guy out, but in some ways, Josh Rosen. Like, Josh Rosen was a very talented quarterback, but the game never slowed down for him. It was going so fast that he would eat unnecessary sacks. He was trying to force these super tight windows, and he just played with no confidence after a few weeks in the league. Compare that to Jackson Dart, who is a very talented quarterback in his own right, but was drafted in the late first for a reason. But he's going out there, he's playing confident, and he's letting it rip. He's not overthinking things, and I think that's very impressive. And again, he's doing this against fairly high-level competition. The Chargers have one of the best defenses out there. The Eagles have an awesome defense. Saints, not so much. They gave him some issues, but there are still some things to take away from that game. I just think he's been really impressive so far. If you tell me he's been the best rookie quarterback this year, I mean, it'd be him or Cam Ward. I would say I probably agree with you because I think Cam Ward's playing well, but Jackson Dart in 3 games has 2 victories compared to Cam, who has 1 on a worser team, but still, I got to give the edge to Jackson Dart. He's absolutely balling. A lot of things to like with this game. There's still things he has to work on. I think that he is definitely looking like a potential franchise quarterback. Again, I don't want to overreact too quickly right now and call him Eli Manning, but man, he's playing really good football. Now his counterpart, Cam Scatabo. The first few weeks, he was not the featured guy. He was more of just sort of a complimentary piece that got a handful of runs here and there. But these past few weeks, he has been the guy on this team. Now, they're still rotating in Tyrone Tracy and occasionally Devin Singletary, but for the most part, it is Scatabo's job. And to me, I think he's doing a whale of a job. The Giants in the past few years have lacked the physicality that they used to have. Back in like the 2000s, early 2010s, when the Eli Manning show was fully going, this team was winning Super Bowls, they were making the playoffs. They were a physical team. They had a bunch of guys who were big and strong, and their running backs for several years were big physical guys. And in the past few years, they just have been lacking some physicality. I'm not saying they have been weak or soft, but they haven't been that physical and a punch you in the face type of team. But now you add a guy in Cam Scatabo whose whole game is focused on being physical and moving the pile and hitting people. And it's been such an awesome piece to have this team. He has been the guy that has kind of set the culture for this offense. I mean, you have veterans out here who are like almost shell-shocked with the amount of energy he plays with. I love the fact that he gets onto the practice field and just screams into the microphone or screams at the camera. It's his blood pumping, and he plays like it. He plays with almost like an arrogance that you have to have if you're going to play a bruisey style of football. And one of the things that was his knock coming out of Arizona State was, well, he's not a great athlete. He can run like a 4.6. He's not going to break tackles in the NFL. The NFL's too physical. Well, here we are through 3 weeks. And while I don't think he's a second coming of Jerome Bettis or anything like that, nor do I think he'll ever be a top 5 running back, man, he's playing good football. He's consistently moving the pile. He is the focal point of the physicality of this team. He sets the culture, and I'm telling you, this is somebody you can give the ball 15 to 20 times, and he's going to try and take your head off. In the future, I would like to see this team maybe add a speedy back next to him. Not a Singletary. I don't think it's Tyrone Tracy either. I'm talking like a real fast running back, like a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs type of duo that can give defenses fit, because Scatabo is athletic, and he can move. And we've seen that so far this year, that he can get to the edge, and he can get past people. He just has that in-game speed that you can't really count on a 40-yard dash. But I do still want to see maybe a second dimension to this run game in the future with like a really, really athletic running back that might be a little bit skinnier, that doesn't need 20 carries. Like, again, like Jahmyr Gibbs, you can give him 20 carries, but for this Giants team, you don't really need that. You need a guy who can get like 10 to 12 carries while Scatabo gets like 15 to 20. Scatabo being your physical, setting the tone style guy that's great in pass protection too. And then a second guy next to him who's like, I am lightning, and that is the punch, exactly kind of like what the Lions have. All in all, this duo of Jackson Dart and Cam Scatabo has been very impressive. Now, when you look at the rest of the offense, there is things that need to improve. Of course, Malik Neighbors, they're all pro caliber receivers out for the season, and hopefully he can return to form. That's going to be very important next year. A big miss for this team because he's a really, really good player, as we all know, and hopefully he can return from this ACL injury and be, his normal self. I think he will. We've seen Wando Robinson play really good football. He's sort of turning into this wide receiver too that, in my opinion, has been awesome for this team. He primarily plays within the slot. He's not a big guy, nor is he the craziest athlete, but he's a smart dude. He's always in the right spots. He catches everything, and he's just gotten better year in and year out. I feel like he's a, cornerstone of this slot receiving room for the foreseeable future. You got Slayton. I like what I saw from Little Jordan Humphrey this past week. It feels like him and Jackson Dart have a little connection going on there. We saw Jalen Hyatt make a couple plays and have a couple moments out there, so maybe there's something brewing there. I like this receiving core, especially when you go ahead and add back in that number one alpha Malik Neighbors. Tight end Theo Johnson, I think he's fine. It's clear that him and Dart have a nice connection that's brewing, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go out there and try to find another option and move Theo Johnson to like a tight end 2 role, because I do expect this team to eventually want to run more 12 personnel, multiple tight end sets. Right now, they don't really have a ton of options there right now. You could throw Bellinger in there. You could throw Johnson in there. You have Chris Manhertz and Fedoni. I mean, you can run 12 personnel right now, but I would like to see maybe a bit of a better receiving threat in that tight end room that you can rely a little bit more than right now with Theo Johnson, who I just think is okay at his job. The offensive line has gotten better this year, and I definitely think with Jackson Dart being there, he's definitely helped out this offensive line because he can move in the pocket. Andrew Thomas, your cornerstone left tackle, as long as he's healthy, he's very good. I even think Jermaine Illuminor has done a fine job at right tackle. I think the guards could both use some replacements. Van Roten and Runyon they're fine. I mean, they get the job done. But if you want to eventually become a really good running football team that doesn't have to rely so much on Jackson Dart's legs, I do think you need to upgrade this middle to get a bit more physical and get some guys that can pave the road for a Scatabo or a speedy guy like I talked about earlier. Now let's go and talk about the defense. The defense is starting to come into their own a little bit. They're playing a lot better football than what they did early on this year. They struggled against the Dallas Cowboys, gave up like 50 or 60 points in that game. It was crazy. I'm, of course, being a little facetious there, but still, it felt like it was. Since then, they've actually been playing pretty good football. This front four is really, really good. They've gotten after the quarterback consistently. Brian Burns is having a potential defensive player of the year type of season. Not saying he's the favorite, but he's probably in the conversation. Kayvon Thibodeau is doing a really good job of just kind of playing his role. He's getting after the quarterback here and there, and he's gotten a lot of flack in his young career for not being this incredible pass rusher, but he's really coming into his own as a dominant run stuffer. And frankly, I actually think that's a really important thing for this team. You have Abdul Carter and you have Brian Burns, who are your pass rush duo that you're going to be relying on in the future. But then you have Kayvon Thibodeau, who kind of felt like the odd man out. But if he can really be that anchor in the run game, the DeMarcus Lawrence at your edge rushing room, that can be a huge role for this team. And he was awesome versus the Philadelphia Eagles last night. So shout out to Kayvon Thibodeau. He's doing a great job against the run right now. And then, of course, Dexter Lawrence up the middle. He's Dexter Lawrence. I think they might need a bit more depth in the interior. That could be something they look to do in the draft in the 2nd or 3rd round, but I think they're pretty good. Their linebackers are actually playing fine. Bobby Okereke doesn't have the greatest PFF stats. Right now, he's at a 51.2, but he's a tackling machine. He just eats up a bunch of tackles. He's definitely playing good enough football. And your other linebacker, Masao, or however you pronounce his last name, he's playing good football too. Now, the secondary is something that does need some improvements. The whole conversation about Deonte Banks, it's kind of over. And I also think Tyler Nubin is probably going to be your backup safety in the future. I just don't know if right now you can trust those young guys enough. I think Nubin, he's fine. And if he starts, I feel okay about it. But Deonte Banks, I mean, it just hasn't worked out for him. But Cordell Flott's playing pretty good this year. We saw Drew Phillips make a couple plays a couple weeks ago. Javon Holland is playing better football. He had a really nice play on Saquon Barkley in the end zone. And Paulson Adebo, he's coming off the injury. Slowish start so far, but I'm hoping he can pick things up the rest of the way. In the draft, if this team eventually probably will be taking a top 10 pick, they're going to have options for a potential difference maker in the secondary. I'm talking Jermon McCoy. I'm talking potentially a Caleb Downs. Somebody like that could really, really significantly bolster up the secondary, especially if you can get Caleb Downs. So for Giants fans who are worried about the secondary, I don't think I'd be too concerned moving forward. In addition to the draft, this team also should have a little bit of money too. They have a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal who is their guy, and they don't really have too many huge contracts on the team. Yes, you have the Brian Burns contract. Yes, you have the Dexter Lawrence contract. You also paid a pretty penny to Javon Holland and Paulson Adebo. But you look at the rest of the roster, you know, Neighbors is on a rookie deal. Dart's on a rookie deal. Scatabo's on a rookie deal. Andrew Thomas is on a fairly big deal. But you should have some money to move around and potentially upgrade this team through free agency. So hypothetically speaking, with the way I look at this team, I think they need to improve their offensive line, especially in the middle. I would like to see an upgrade in the secondary, primarily maybe another safety and another outside corner. And in terms of like minor upgrades, I think maybe another tight end, maybe another speedy running back. But outside of that, like there's not a lot of issues on this team. If this team goes out there and let's say they sign a safety in free agency, or let's say they draft Caleb Downs for fun. If they draft Caleb Downs and if they potentially add a speedy running back in the offseason, maybe shore up the offensive line a tad bit more, and they draft a cornerback in round 2, I mean, there's really not a ton of holes on this team unless one randomly pops up. Now, Jackson Dart and Scatterbo have to continue to ascend. They have to continue to play with that swagger and energy, and Brian Daboll has to continue to do his job at a high level. If he continues to do so, I look at this Giants team and I'm saying, man, they're not far away. They're not going to make the playoffs this year. They're not going to do it. Again, not overreacting. They're not going to make the playoffs this year. But if you tell me next year the Giants are in contention to possibly make a playoff spot in 2026, I don't think I would be that surprised. No, I'm not predicting that. We have a long offseason to go. We'll see what moves they make. But if they make the necessary upgrades on their team, and if we assume Dart, Scatabo, and Neighbors all play well next year and continue to get better, I'm just saying it's possible. You look at the NFC East, the Eagles, they feel like they're on the down right now. The Cowboys have some questions to figure out. The Commanders are an older team. The Giants are right there to potentially make things interesting. So I'm just throwing it out there. This Giants team is pretty dang cool, and they're fun to watch. And man, they got some tests the rest of the way. Their schedule is absolutely brutal. But man, if they can continue to upset some teams, man, we're going to have some fun conversations about the Giants in the offseason. But you guys let me know in the comment section below. What do you guys think of Jackson Dart? Think he's a good player? You tell me down below. If you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe button. Love you guys. Peace.